9/11 to me smells more like Bill Clinton than anything else, and we're going to take a look at the first World Trade Towers attack on the World Trade Towers. It was perpetrated by the same exact people. We'll look exactly who they were, where they came from, and we're going to cover everything about the terrorist and that it was not actually any American that I know of. I think the Democrats had helped perpetuate 9/11 or help 9/11 to come along and help stuff like this, the first World Trade Tower to happen, um, and stuff like what they had on the USS Cole, attack like that. That's a typical Democrat move that people aren't aware of. That they basically want terrorists to attack you in public and kill us off if they can, because it goes into their ability to use it for propaganda. And if you don't believe me on that, that is called never allowing a crisis to go to waste. And that is a forum motto on the Democrat agenda. Their forum is do not let a good crisis go to waste. That that reminds me of the BP crisis in the South when that happened in the Gulf or whatever. That made me think of never allowing a good crisis go to waste, and that's what Obama basically did. Was he made a spectacle and a like a circus parade out of the thing instead of doing what was right and stopping it and whatever, containing it and capturing it. And all the people there lucky that the natural habitat, for some reason, has a ability to take to a head um, uh, cleaned itself up along with other people cleaning it up. It was there's some kind of kelp or something in the water that actually eats, absorbs and eats oil, I guess. So it's maybe some kind of plankton also. So, anyways, so the first World Trade Tower that happened here. Um, if you look at this guy right here, he was caught. Remember, he's famous for actually the actual 9/11, and he's tied to the first World Trade Towers. He's the father of this guy right here. And they don't have a picture for him, but it says that he um, has got life in prison. He's got life in prison. He's from Jordan. This guy here, born in Kuwait or Pakistan, Kuwait City. Kuwait City is actually it used to be part of Iraq. It's like how they have a democracy, um, where America was able to fend off like communists or whatever bad regimes were there. Like the dictatorship was going on in Iraq. We were successful through with the UN and everything to make Kuwait a part of the Allies, our allies or whatever. So that was once a part of Iraq. So it makes sense that some of these guys are actually tied to all various different areas, including Iraq. So, when Trump was saying recently that he's going to go in and find out information about the World Trade Towers, and he can tell you who they really are. He's telling stuff that we really want to hear. We thought it was interesting, but it's rhetoric for his campaign. He's trying to build up momentum by saying various things, and it's worked so far for him. So, anyways, this we're going over the um, actual 9/11, what led up to the September 11th attack, and who was all has at least ties to what happened there. So, training for terrorist attacks. Shut up. Shut up. It says, abandoning his first asylum claim, Ajaj flew from New York to Peshawar, Pakistan, using the Allies' Abraham Solihan, alias, from there, there to Camp, Camp, what is it, Camp Calden on the Afghanistan-Pakistani border. Lacking necessary credentials, a judge was sent to Saudi Arabia to obtain a letter of recommendation. On May 16, 1992, he flew to Saudi Arabia via United Arab Emirates, where he produced a letter of introduction requesting the leader of Camp Caldan provide the beer see the bear with training in the use of weapons of explosives. Ajaz returned to Pakistan via UAE, United Arab Emirates. It's like what, like an aircraft or something. It's like a aircraft company maybe or something. Look at them. Look at them. United Emirates. Arab Emirates. United Arab Emirates is a country located in the southeast end of the Arabian Peninsula on the Persian Gulf, bordering Oman to the east of Saudi Arabia to the south, as well as sharing sea borders to Qatar and Iran. In 2013, the UAE's total population was 2.9.2 million, of which 1.4 million are Emirati citizens and 7.8 million are expert expatriates. Expatriates. So trades in the United Arab Emirates. Oh, what? Oh, okay. There's a big blank. The United Arab Emirates requires the services provided by immigrants from all over the world, mainly because a large number of UAE locals consider many private sector jobs to be below them. The country's relatively liberal society, compared to some of its neighbors, has attracted many global ex- expatriates, expatriates, including people from Western nations. This is one of the reasons why Emirati locals are outnumbered in their own country at a ratio of 9 to 1 under Article 8 of UAE Federal Law no number 17. An expatriate can apply for UAE citizenship after residing in the country for 20 years, providing that person has never been convicted of a crime and can speak fluent Arabic. Arabic fluent. The other way is through, and that's kind of hard if you're in another place, but I guess not. I don't know. Marriages, child adoptions, or influences. Okay. However, these days citizenship is not given that easily, with many people living in the country as stateless person. See, but by doing the issue is also present to other Arab states of the Persian Gulf. So, yeah, 57 states, right? Lacking necessary credentials. May 16th, 1990, he flew Saudi Arabia in citizenship, training in the use of weapons and explosions, returned to Pakistan. In June 1982, he began the bomb building course. Turn to the U.S. We cover this. Turn to the U.S. August 31st, 1992, using services of a Pakistani travel agent Ahmad Ajaj and Ramzi Youssef, boarded Pakistani International Airlines Flight 703 in Peshawar and flew to Karachi, Pakistan. Then on to Kennedy Airport in New York City, flying first class during both lengths of the trip, believing they would receive less scrutiny. Adjej and Yosef together had five passports and numerous documents supporting their aliases, and Saudi passports showing signs of alteration. In Iraq passport, an Iraqi passport. And it was the first um, time so far that we bring Iraq up. Besides Kuwait, passport brought from a Pakistani official. I was just gonna say, um, yeah, basically, Obama didn't he against like screening for different kinds of people that look really creepy or odd like that. So yeah, that's one kind of uh reason not to vote for a Democrat, and the many of the reasons not to. Anyways, a photo substituted Swedish passport, a photo substituted British passport, a Jordanian passport, identification cards, bank records, education records, and medical records, and carried WAMI published manuals. 9/11 Commission. 9/11 Commission. Oh, this is where they, I would guess they got that from. And I read the 9/11 Commission, so some of that, I guess that's familiar language for that book. On September 1st, 1992, at Kennedy Airport, a judge was sent to secondary immigration inspection where he claimed he was a member of the Swedish press traveling as Karim Khan with international student identification card and a self what is that? A falsified 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 Swedish passport. It is known whether it is unknown whether a judge was meant to cause a scene as a distraction to let Joseph slip through or legitimately lost his temper, but he shouted to the inspector, "My mother was Swedish. If you don't believe me, check your computer." The passport was legitimate, belonging to a Swedish citizen who had attended a training camp in Pakistan and surrendered his identity card to those who ran the camp. But Edge had used simple school paste to to plaster his own photograph over the legitimate owner. In Edge's luggage, INS Inspector Mark Cosing and Robert Malafronte found a Swedish passport, altered Jordanian passport with supporting documents for both a plane ticket and British passport in the name of Mohammed Azan. Bomb making manuals, videos, and other materials on assemble weapons and explosives assembly. Letters referencing his attendance at terrorist training camps, anti-American, and this is where I'll bring up that's where the direction the Democrat Party. That's why I'm so anti-Democrat Party because they're anti-American. They're not this anti your war, anti your business, or anti privatizing. And they want everything to be structured through the government. They're anti-American. People like Bill Clinton and Obama and Hillary and all them have horrendous past of protesting in anti-American rallies, not anti-war or anti-whatever. A protest. The protest was anti-American. So, anyways, move on. And anti-Israeli materials. So, and Israel should always be a place that you can describe or use as a reference to what a country when you help people out as Americans, you help somebody make a democracy in their country, is what is Israel. Is a good example of what a country would look like after America's involvement in helping them be liberated. They have their own country. They make their own rules. Their determination. Their structure is basically, I think, right down the line of they decided to go with what we do with law and as far as their society's structure goes. That's what they it consists of in their society, basically. Um, but it's a an ancient place, so it has a very distinct, you know, ancient feeling there. But still, that's what you would have had with given Iraq, Vietnam, or any of those places. Israel, right here, from when they became liberated, is proof that everybody who protested an anti-American or anti-even Vietnam or Iraq protests were wrong. That those people would not get their liberation and be in a democracy. So this is about them being wrong about George Bush and Republicans, basically. So instructions on document forgery and two rubber stamp devices to alter the seal on passports issued from Saudi Arabia. One of the manuals, written in 1982, 7 years before the group was founded, was entitled Al Qaeda, the basics. So that was back in the 80s, Al Qaeda. I was trying to get to make that point, trying to point that out that Al Qaeda has been our like operative enemy. So Bush was totally right about 9/11 the whole time. somebody told me before I helped Bush in his campaign, um, best I could to help get him elected, even though the state I was in carried for the Democrats always in Oregon. I still went and uh, did what I did for the Republicans or whatever. So um, here you have it. Al Qaeda has been our operative enemy for a long time, and this is where I guess it's quoted from the basics on this. This is Wikipedia um, on these different individuals who basically attacked our country. So you let Obama and any Democrat lie to you and get elected, and you're gonna vote for them when they're lying to your face. That's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing, and for them to lie and call Bush and all this stuff, I guarantee you that um, Obama would have rubbed Bush's face all in 9/11 up to this point, like hardcore. If any of the conspiracies were true and Bush had anything to do with it, and I can't really believe that we're actually still talking like Bush had something to do with 9/11. So we really believe Bush and Cheney started 9/11, did not. When basically I'm going back to the 80s. I'm going back to 1982. Al Qaeda, 1982. So I don't understand where people's logic is really going, and uh, it's like the whatever the guy on the Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man, that guy. It's all in different directions. You don't have a brain. All right, so all right, the basics. Al Qaeda referred. This thing is actually saying 1982, and I see Saudi Arabia right there, and was more widely reported after the group came to prominence. An INS supervisor informed the FBI terrorist task force, which declined to get involved but requested copies of the file. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms was notified but was not interested. I want to stop right here. I want to ask, does anybody think that the FBI and other agencies, legal places, might be tainted with criminal activity now? Do you think that they might actually be um, criminal? I asked somebody's answer said if they do not indict Hillary, they said then the FBI is corrupt. Um, and we all know from what happened in what the Democrats and Obama did through the IRS with the IRS against people in 2012, um, that the IRS is basically corrupt. But I mean, those are the people who, right off the bat, they're the ones who enforce taxing you. So, um, Yosef was also sent to secondary immigration suspect inspection for lacking a passport or a visa that would allow him to enter U.S. He represented an Iraqi passport he said he bought from a Pakistani official for $100 or more to 2,701 report, adding that the passport was fraudulent. Yosef claimed he was he was fleeing Saddam Hussein and needed asylum. That and then there's Saddam Hussein is mentioned right there also. So this is our report analysis. We're coming out front with all of this stuff here. And this is the 1993 February February um 26th date. February 26th, 1993 was the first um, World Trade Tower attack. Alright. 2791 report adding passport was fraudulent. Yusuf claimed he was fleeing Saddam Hussein and needed asylum, that he had been recently beaten by Iraqi soldiers in Kuwait because they thought he was a member of a Kuwaiti guerrilla organization. INS Inspector Martha Morales also found in his possession a, a boarding pass in the name of Mohammed Azan and an identity card from Al Banan Islamic Center in Arizona with Yosef's photo and the name Karam Khan, under which Ejej had traveled into the U.S. Yosef had signed the back of the card as Ramzi Ahmed Yosef. Yosef had checks from Lloyd's Bank of London and an address book listed what Morals later called unusual places in America for someone to visit whom had just come from halfway around the world. So I would think that some of that stuff would come from, like it said, the different people that were in their terrorist. What do you say? Um, you got a training camp, terrorist training camp. So different people from around the world go to those training camps, thinking whatever, they're brainwashed. Fingerprinted and photographed, his passport was confiscated. Morrow said Joseph spoke excellent English with a British accent, admitted his real name Ramsey Joseph, and said he was born in UAE in 1967 and was a citizen of Pakistan. I'm gonna stop for a second here. There's a place in England, so he might have actually been in England. For a bit of my opinion, I think because there's, I believe, a place there that will teach you how to speak fluent English like that from that place. So it would have to be a particular place in England. That's how they can distinguish different English people, from what I heard. So her supervisor overruled Morrell's recommendation to detain Yosef on grounds the INS detention center was full, even though Yosef had committed acts of immigration fraud, traveling under three different identities and lying to an INS official, and also giving inspectors evidence linking him to Ahmad linking him to Ahmed Ajaj. Ahmed Ajaj. Huh. With intermingled documents and both men in secondary inspection. Still, Yosef was not linked to Ajaj. He made a claim for political asylum and was released in the United States pending a hearing. Ajed's terrorist kit, counterfeit entry stamp, and outburst were all decoys intended to deflect INS attention away from Yosef and facilitate Yosef's processing. A, a premeditated plan intended to exploit routine activities by busy INS inspectors. After more than 8 hours of questioning at 5 a.m. September 2nd, 1992, INS handed Adjudge to Wackenhut Correctional Corporation for incarceration in a converted warehouse in Queens. Adjudge report revealed revealed his June 15, 1992 Pakistani entry stamp was counterfeit. Adjudge told authorities he had a political asylum claim from a prior entry in February 1992 and was detained pending a hearing. Adjudge later pleaded guilty to use of an altered passport and served 6 months in prison. Joseph never appeared for his hearing. Participation from prison. September 2nd, 1992, remained in contact with Yosef and other co-conspirators and continued to be involved in the World Trade Center bombing plot. Edwards never contacted Joseph directly. Calls were patched through Big Five Hamburgers in Dallas, rendering law enforcement detection more difficult. Calls were not translated until long after the World Trade Center bombing. Do the same. The call from Edith was transferred to Joseph, permitting the two to speak directly. In the conversation, Edith immediately brought up the terrorist kit, informing Joseph that the court had ordered the government to return Edith's belongings. When Joseph asked if he could take possession of Edith's things, the judge readily agreed at first, but then said that it was not a good idea for Yusuf personally to obtain the materials from the government because it might jeopardize Yusuf's business. Sajid said would be a pity. Huh. Beginning on December 4th, 1992, and later on December 29th, 1992, Yusuf placed a series of calls to Edge's lawyers in New York and to Edge's friends in Texas. Later that same day, a call from Edge was transferred to Yosef, permitting the two to speak directly. In the conversation, Edge immediately brought up the terrorist kit, informing Yosef that court had ordered the. Oh, I'm sorry. I already read that. Edge was released from prison March 1st, 1993, 3 days after the World Trade Center bombing. He was rearrested in connection with the attack on March 9th, 1993, and his asylum request was denied on April 24th, 1993. In jail at the time of the World Trade Center bombing, Edge was convicted of having played a role in the early stages of the conspiracy and convicted of 9 counts, sentenced to 115 years, fined $250,000 in order to pay $250 million in restitution. Adjudge did not give up on his political asylum claim. He petitioned for a new attorney and an exclusion hearing held to determine whether someone is admissible in the U.S. In Houston, where he had filed his original political asylum claim, Adjudge's request was denied April 24th, 1993, on grounds that a passport holder from a waiver visa waiver country who used a fraudulent passport had used a bogus Swedish passport is not entitled to such a hearing. Not satisfied with that outcome, Adjudge asked to file a new political asylum claim and was given 10 days by an immigration judge to do so. Adjudge was able to file a political asylum claim after his arrest for involvement. A 2011 NPR report claimed he was in prison in a highly restrictive communication management unit. Lung cancer, the Bureau of Prison moved him to a medical facility where he had surgery, remove a cancerous lung, and receive radiation treatment. He was was filed scores of grievances and several lawsuits against the U.S. prison system, alleging everything from interference with his mail to denial of access to lawyers, and violations of his Eighth Amendment rights. It sounds like Obama. You know what he believes? He believes that these guys all have constitutional rights here as terrorists, and they should close Guantanamo Bay and all this. So, anyways, Edgedge remaining plaintiff was the only remaining plaintiff in a lawsuit by federal prisoners alleging harm from secondary smoke seeping through the air filtration system at Supermax. So here's his references, external links. It says, and it doesn't say anything. I didn't see anything about him being released. They just said that he had 115 years. I heard language of there he was, or whatever. So who knows? They gave him 115 years, but what's the conclusion here? Did they let the guy go or what? This guy is still waiting trial, and all I was gonna say here was, um, he would, Obama would want to have this guy brought to America to be tried or whatever, and so that's part of them wanting to give them special rights when this guy is a terrorist and is treated by the law. The U.S. hasn't done anything illegal with these people, and Guantanamo Bay isn't um, illegal, or anything like that. So um, he should get the death penalty. I'm surprised that it's been this long. And the Wikipedia is saying that he still hasn't been convicted and was caught on March 1st, 2013, or I mean 2003. Sorry, and this was the grandfather of the whole thing, and that's the first time the World Trade Towers was attacked. And that's rubble of the basement. What they did was they drove these trucks into the facility. They were able to get these trucks with diesel, I believe, and fertilizer is what they used, like what Timothy McVeigh did in Oklahoma City. Anyways, they were able to get these trucks past the guards and whoever else into the World Trade Towers, and that's how they tried to blow it up the first time and destroy it. So, and that guy, this guy right here, is the mastermind of the whole entire thing, and he's still, um, you know, uh, that long after 1993 and 2001, still plotting to take the World Trade Tower down. It had nothing to do with George Bush, and they were right about the people, and they came clean with the public about the whole entire thing. Is they're not, they weren't beating. The Bush administration was not beating around the bush. So see what it did. It did a truck bomb detonated. So these are the people who are involved. They're all linked to the see September 11th attacks in 2001. They're all linked to that happening. All these people. So like I said, I can't believe people are still making claims that Bush or Cheney or whatever is just it's uh it's food basically to feed the idiots out here who are teetering, who they're gonna vote for or not. You believe that Hillary Clinton is a pro-American, so is that why you're voting for her? Because I really don't think so. I think if you'd vote for her, it's because you think she maybe panders to you for something, for some reason. But anyways, Ramzi Youssef, born 20th of May 1967, is one of the main perpetrators of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing Philippine Airlines Flight 434, and a co-conspirator to the Benjinka plot. In 1995, he was arrested by the Pakistani Inter-Services Intelligence (ISI), the U.S. and U.S. Diplomatic Security Services at a guest house in Islamabad, Pakistan, while trying to set a bomb in a baby doll. Then extradited to the U.S. He was tried in the U.S. District Court for the Southern Southern District of in the U.S. District for the Southern District of New York, along with two co-conspirators, and was convicted of planning the the Jinka plot. He was sentenced to two life sentences for his part in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and the Bojinka plot. Yosef's maternal uncle, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, right, the guy we were talking about, with whom he allegedly planned the Bojinka plot. Mohammed is a senior Al Qaeda member accused of being the principal architect of the September 11th attack in 2001. Yosef is serving his life sentence at 80X Florence, located in Florence, Colorado. Mohammed Abdullah it says is a convicted perpetrator of the 1983 World Trade Center bombing. His red hair earned him the nickname Muhammad the Red. Life. Do we want to look at the life one? And no, in Kuf Noor, Egypt. So he's from Egypt. Spent his adolescence with an Al Jamaa al Islamiyah, an outlawed Islamic group that heralded Omar Abdul Rahman as their spiritual leader. He briefly attended Alexandria University. Alexandria. See this right here, Amal there. Ramad. Ramad. Uh, Rahman or whatever. Um, this place would be a place that I would maybe investigate a little bit. Um, Moving to Germany. So I dropped out and left Egypt altogether in 1981, moving to Germany. There, he later recalled he had lived a life of corruption, girls, drugs, you name it. The following year, Germany denied him political asylum, and he quickly remarried, or quickly married Renate Soka, a troubled German woman, which guaranteed he could remain in the country. He divorced Soka 3 years later, but shortly after he married another woman named Marianne Weber in a Muslim ceremony. He flew to Brooklyn with his new wife, and after his American tourist visa expired, applied for amnesty, claiming to be an agricultural worker and was accepted as a permanent resident under the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. And that's where you would see, um, you know, similarities from maybe Reagan to Obama, maybe. They're both trying to get amnesty, but I would hope that Reagan would have been the one that would have looked at it like these people need to um, get resolved being here. They live here or whatever. You can't just up and deport them. You have to do something to make them citizen here. Obama would want the votes, and you can tell that by the way that he pushes and pushes and pushes and pushes forward. With everything that he pushes forward is all for a vote to him. Is all that he is concerned with, as far as I'm concerned. So, anyways, he worked as a New York cab driver for 5 years, from 1886 to 1981. So he saw his license suspended 10 times during that period for failing to attend traffic court for cab violations, including traffic violations and an attempt to overcharge a customer. In his free time, Abdullah worked long hours for a non-profit group in Brooklyn that raised money for Afghan Mujahideen, for the Afghan Mujahideen. And you talk about Iraq. Well, we're in Afghanistan too, right? Well, we've seen Iraq and Afghanistan, all these other places, Pakistan, um, all those places all mentioned here frequently and a lot. So, um, when Israel had their 6 Day War, they hit all of those. They hit Saudi Arabia, they hit all of them, Pakistan. As far as I know, they had a built up Arab alliance against them that was trying to take over their country, and they've got this little tiny little spot that they control or whatever. Israel should really control more land around, just more than just around what's around Jerusalem. But anyways, militancy, Abdullah Hama, Malahala Mana, sorry, traveled to Afghanistan in 1988, saying he wanted to prove he was a Muslim, not a Shiite, and received combat training in Peshawar. And I'm gonna stop right here. All I can say is I'm thinking of right now is that the Russians were fighting against these guys in the 80s, and we aided these guys throughout the course of that time. So I don't know why you would help think that they were going to wash one hand or wash the other or whatever when you're talking about three people, three different. You're a better chance at doing trades or making deals with the Russians than you would um, with the terrorists than the people that we're fighting now. In Afghanistan and Iraq. I don't mean all Arabs or maybe even Muslims, but you know, you're talking about radical thinking people. They think downright. You must die. You know what I'm saying? So, um, when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking that the Russians had good. They have good reason to smite us over Afghanistan because we didn't help them more. I don't understand why we would have been involved in any way in trying to stop the Russians' involvement. Maybe at that point we didn't really see the radical Islamic State regime compared to the communist states, which is all war machines. They're all war facilities that facilitate, you know, armies against us that really want to take our country over. They would love to take over our country. So if there's uh, signal sort of um, that they own us or something like that because they voted for that Obama guy or whatever, they're at least until he's voted out and his stupid stuff that he's done is exposed and done away with or fixed or whatever, they're gonna be all gloating like, they defeated us or something by sneaking in there. So what part of the Democrat Party are they appeasing to? The communist way, dictatorship way, or the radical fundamental, Sharia law craziness in the world? And I don't know if people over here, because we're not exposed to all the militant stuff, and that's what we're looking at right here, militancy. We're not exposed to all the militancies going on in the Middle East and other stuff every day. We live in democracy and whatever, so different experience. Um, so we have to be kind of clued in a little bit on what's going on here in the bigger picture, in the overhauling of America and what the outcome is going to be like. to say? Ali Muhammad, a sergeant at Fort Bragg, provided United States Army manuals and other essentials or assistance, to individuals at the Al Forak Mosque. And see, and now we stop right there. See, now the smart thing to do would be to investigate all of the mosques because, really, as far as I know, um, nobody should be getting away with um, preaching certain things. Um, these guys shouldn't be allowed to. If they are, they're notorious for causing problems, terrorist attacks, and other things like that. So they need to be monitored. So monitoring the mosque thing is not such a bad idea, and I really would like them to find out if there's anybody spying for the terrorists and ISIS or anybody else like that in our military. They need to be brought to justice. So Al Forak Mosque. So I guess that'd probably be in Texas. So you're signifying that there is a communication link basically from a mosque in Texas that's linked to a mosque in New York or mosques in New York basically. All right. So that's where you monitor the mosque is there's a connection. There's a connection between the sorts. Stop. Stop it. All right, sorry. Um, not a sheep. Was a Muslim, not a sheep. Okay, whatever you say, buddy. Including Ado, Ado, Mama, and El Said Nazar practiced at the Culverton shooting range on Long Island. Many of the groups wearing T-shirts reading "Help each other in goodness" and in what is that pity? A Muslim to a Muslim is a brick wall with a map of Afghanistan emblazoned in the middle. Abdullah Ulama wore an NRA cap during their practices. When Nasser assassinated Mayor Kahin, Abdullah was driving the purported getaway car, although Nazar what was that? Accidentally jumped into another cab by mistake. He was subject of an FBI investigation through January 1993, at which point the investigation was called off shortly before the World Trade Center bombing. On February 26, 1993, the day of the World Trade Center bombing, he was seen by several witnesses with Mohammed Salama at a New Jersey storage facility, allegedly used to prepare the explosives. So you have that in storage facilities. Be wary of storage facilities. So captured, Abdul fled to Saudi Arabia and then back to his native Egypt, where he was captured by Egyptian police, tortured, and handed back to the United States, mummified in duct tape. In March 1994, he received a sentence of 240 years in prison with no possibility of parole. After an appeal, the sentence was later reduced to 130 months. He is currently an inmate at ADEX Florence, Colorado. His current release date is stated on the Bureau of Prison website is 9/20/2087. Federal Bureau of Prison ID. Doo-doo. These are all the guys that were involved in the first World Trade Tower, and they all have links to the people who attacked the World Trade Tower. The second one. Slowly, murder linkage. So bad people. Here's the guy. He fled, right? And this is the big one right here. So this is what led him back to basically Saddam. This guy fled. They said he's notorious for not ever being caught. Um, he came from um, Yusuf was born in Bloomington, Indiana, U.S. Was originally from Iraq. Okay, but his dad was originally from Iraq, but whenever he left, um, they think that he went to Baghdad, I believe, is what it was saying. His life arrived in the United States. It's a return to Iraq. See, that's where I got that from. So after the World Trade Tower, he fled there. The Iraqis said that they caught him and put him in jail, basically. But he was the only terrorist out of all of them that didn't get caught, fled, and went to Baghdad. So one guy mentioned Saddam. That was probably stupid of him to say Saddam's name, because he was letting a little bit of the cat out of the bag that Saddam was linked to all of this stuff and attacks against Israel too. He was paying $25,000 to these different people's families to blow themselves up, to send their family member as a human explosive on Israeli people. Um, so I don't really need to go any further. Life in prison. So that was the basically the first 9/11. Then so wanted to explain that the Democrat thing that they're doing, it kind of it bangs your head a little bit inside your head. You're like, oh, why are these people? Why are these people in our White House? Why are they um, acting like they're public servants or whatever? If they're gonna go um, talking to a terrorist, you know, I don't understand. Are these pictures of her? Well, anyways, if it wasn't Michelle Obama, which you know it is because it's obviously a picture of her in there with the terrorist, um, then tell me um, why why did this guy right here, why did he wind up going back to Saudi Arabia? They like paid our government off for him to be released. They like paid him like maybe millions of dollars, but this guy got out of going to prison. He was like the only one out of they had the couple of guys that they had as they killed or whatever in, on TV or whatnot. So they had a couple of people that they all gone down, like made an example of. But this guy right here, I looked up his Facebook when that was all going down, and he looked very much, um, sympathetic to this unified um, Islamic unification, dominating the world type of thing that they're trying to promote or whatever, and might also be one part of what's making me believe with a couple of other things that makes me believe that their younger people that are Muslim are dangerous. If I was a public servant, I would be watching these guys. Like I might not be all upfront completely with the public about it, but these guys would all be on my watch list. For real. In those mosques, I'd be looking for connections and different things like that. So, um, is this Photoshop? When it came out, they showed. I didn't see a Photoshop of it. Let's see, that's her somewhere with a little kid. So, oh look, she's going around taking various pictures with different people. Maybe that explains it. But as far as I know, I mean, she went and talked to one of the people that was part of the Boston bombing. So just wanted to show connections of various ways of how the Democrats perpetuated all of this stuff. And that everything that they said about Bush was not even correct. So as far as I'm concerned, he showed like a very um, shocked look on his face. So I still don't buy into conspiracies that that Bush had anything to do with a 9/11 conspiracy.